Hi there, Eli Simic Robertson, and I did the C5 case. Basic outline of the case: it was a electric car, and it failed severely in the 1980s. In 1985, it was released. Their case suggested that this was due to a poor marketing mix. More specifically, it was wrongly targeted and badly positioned. Therefore, it was overall a bad marketing strategy. As I said, the two main issues in the marketing mix was the target market and the position. In the target market, they were targeting housewives and kids and commuters. These were all prospective customers that weren't interested in the product, or it wouldn't have been a good fit for them. So it was overall bad customer needs research. It was sold as a car. However, it wasn't safe on the road, and it had a very slow speed and a very poor range. So it wasn't a very good idea to position it as a car. Now, seeing as the C5 was released in the 1980s and 1985, my question to you is, what do you think has changed in the industry in these last almost 4 decades? Here's my first industry definition, the broad definition. So at the top we just have a customer needs to get from A to B. That would divide the transport into individual and then the group. So in the individual we have just a standard bicycle or motorcycle, for example, or group like a car or using a bus as transport. A more narrow definition. We have the bicycle, and then we just have your traditional type of bicycle, and then we have that split with the newer motorized and electric scooters. So this is where I'd say C5 sort of fits in the industry, and then you could say that they compete with the bicycles with engines. And my final tree diagram, this is the most narrow. So on the left we have just a store-bought car, bicycle, actually purchasing the good for themselves, not opposed to the newer idea of hiring, ride sharing. So we have like a functional use, like Uber or like scooter sharing. People use that to get to work, or just general use purely for its function. And then we have more like recreation. So we have like a limo, for example, or the C5. So this is where the case actually suggested that the C5 should have been sold as a recreational use. So purely for recreation, opposed to using it for functional use, because for functional use you would have needed a longer range and for it to be safe on the road. The macro factors that I noticed, well, the current macro factors, if hypothetically if it was in this current market, you can see that there's been definitely big developments in technology, specifically with a lot of lithium advancements. So the battery's a lot smaller and a lot more powerful, and they can go further. So from another paper that I read, it claimed to have a range of 20 miles, so it was advertised. It ended up only being 14.2 miles, so it was definitely not fast enough for the road. And then for environmental factors, this would be a positive factor for any electric vehicle, just because of all the challenges of society and with climate change. So I think that's a positive force. Probably a negative and a positive, but at least this type of market for electric vehicles and in general just electric devices opposed to petrol, there's going to be quite a lot of competition now, but at least it is a growing market. And we can see here that the e-bikes are obviously like a relatively similar part in the industry. We can see that there's quite a positive, it's like a healthy growth, it seems, of electric bikes. So that's a good positive force. And my recommendation would have been to create a minimal viable product, even though the C5 had a prototype, so basically an MVP. However, I believe they approached it with the traditional waterfall strategy on the right, and did not keep on iterating over with the prototype to actually determine whether the consumer actually wanted this good. So I would have set up more agile approach. We keep on iterating over, usually in the requirements and the planning stage and the design stage. This is where you'd be finding your customer needs fit, opposed to doing this waterfall where it's a very sequential process. Also with the agile development, you constantly looping in between the stages. So I feel if they did use the agile approach, it would have been more efficient. My final question is, would you release the C5 into the market now, considering that it has changed, and with those macro factors that I did introduce you to?